Welcome to The Gap, where it's our mission to bridge the gap between training and on-field performance.
I'm Brett Hart, owner of Hitman Performance.
And I'm Dan Labadia, the owner of Jack Javelin.
Hope you guys enjoy the show.
All right, everyone, welcome to this episode of The Gap. Today we have two very special guests. We have Winger and Ariana Ince. So, Ariana, I wanted to start with you because I know that you had started with a lot of different events when you first started off. So talk a little bit about that and how you got into javelin down the road and how your training age has affected you in your career.
Oh, training age. Thanks for saying training age and not actual age. I don't think my path is as weird as everyone wants to make it be. I started as a pole vaulter. I went to school and university for pole vaulting, but I always had a really good arm, like even in Little League. We didn't have a softball team or anything like that, so I played Little League with all the boys for baseball, and I was the one they put on third base because I was the only one that could throw the ball on a rope, right? Like even at like 8 or 9 years old. So there's like some level of intrinsic, I kind of understand how this is supposed to work. But played tons of sports growing up, like 6 sports in high school, including high school football. I was a wide receiver in a corner. I wasn't in there with all the big boys, so I stayed away from the chaos and the melee. But we just needed more javelin throwers when I was in college. So I volunteered one day and they were like, all right, let's see what you got. And it just kind of took off from there. So I don't think it's that weird. Like, I think especially when you go to a smaller university and they're just trying to get you to get points for conference, you end up getting to try a bunch of different stuff, which I don't know that would have happened if I'd gone to a larger university. So yeah, that was kind of the start of it. I kind of picked it up late. I think I first started throwing when I was like 21 or 22, somewhere in there, which is definitely later than like a European who starts at 12 or 13 maybe, but a lot of kids in the US don't start until they're 18. So I'm really not that far behind a lot of people. So I think the benefit of starting later for me is that I had built up enough strength and kind of tendon and ligament resilience through all of these other sports that even when I was doing it a little bit wrong, my body was prepared to handle those forces better than if I was growing and also trying to put myself into these weird javelin positions. So from that standpoint, I think I benefited a lot. I, like, knock on wood, am one of the few javelin throwers that's never really been injured by any means whatsoever. I've had seasons where I've definitely had aches and pains, but I've never missed anything because of an injury. And I think some of that is related to starting later and being fully grown and fully developed, and then picking up the javelin. And then it also, for me, I've just always been a person that's very steadily gotten better. I'm not someone that's ever had a 3, 4, 6 meter PR. Like, I've only ever PR'd by, like, I think at most like 2 meters at a time, which is boring to everyone, but that's how I've consistently gotten better. And I think just because I started later, so as much as it's maybe some people would view it as a disadvantage, I think there's also a reason that I'm still doing it without aches and pains at 36 versus a lot of my people that aren't. That was a monologue and a half.
No, you're good. I mean, I think what it circles back to is the fact that you are a really good athlete and very good at a lot of different things before you came to javelin. And one thing that I've noticed too was my first year throwing javelin full time year round, I blew out my UCL. Jordan, same thing with him. When he quit football in his senior year of college and got a lot better at javelin, he started running into the UCL issues. And Mike Stein, same thing, his senior year of high school, when he quit baseball to go all in on javelin, he hurt his UCL as well. So like you see with people that specialize, they start doing a lot more volume and a lot more of the, essentially the same movement patterns over and over and over again. And then you're putting a lot more stress on, like, your block leg or your lower back or your shoulder and your elbow, those same repetitive movements. Whereas for you, like, starting a little bit later, and getting such a good base of all those 6 different sports and playing so many different things and getting strong and not getting the same overuse pattern almost, I think, helps your longevity. And I'm sure Brett has a lot to say about that as well.
Yeah, just in terms of long-term athletic development. I know Kara on our last episode, which was about 70 episodes ago, by the way. So it's been a while since we've talked the last time. But I remember you saying things about playing softball, the multi-sport approach, like your earliest memory of throwing from right field to home plate on a line. And we were joking about how far the distance actually was. But you said you didn't have any aches and pains until you started really specializing in the javelin as well later down the road. So with people listening, what Dan wants to do of the javelin launch and the making javelin mainstream and getting a lot more people into it, I just wanted to hear your guys' opinions and thoughts on just the importance of that long-term athletic approach, being able to be an athlete and a good human mover first before actually specializing fully into the javelin.
I like looking at kind of the prep doc that you guys put together for us. Yes, absolutely. Like, I think in terms of Ari's career, and I agree completely that it's not as weird as people want to make it seem, especially
super, super weird.
Yeah, okay.
But especially the post-collegiate part. Like I've said pretty often that following Ari's model of supporting yourself and following your dream is so much more realistic and sustainable and accessible to people than like dreaming of getting a sponsorship. Like these days, it's not feasible. It's not a thing that's probably going to happen. So making your life happen is something that Ari's demonstrated. It's really cool to me. So I just want to say that first. And the tendon and ligament resilience, like just running, like one of the things that I think Americans miss out on is the approach nature of the event. So Ari's career being pole vault to javelin, like she had that rhythm, she had that speed, she had that like understanding of something big happening at the end of a run and the like tendon and ligament resilience on the runway. So it's being a wide receiver, it's for me like chasing down point guards and swatting them before they can get the layup out in basketball, and like having that version of athleticism on your feet and changing directions and all of that stuff before you have to do one thing over and over and over and over again. So I just agree completely. Swimming, for me, those were my main sports in high school: swimming, basketball, track and field. And I wasn't just a javelin thrower. I tried the 4x4 when people needed me to, like ran the 4x1 one time, which Ari will never believe in her life. And triple jump a little bit. Like I ran the 300 hurdles. Like I was just trying to be helpful on the team because that's kind of all I'd ever come from was team sports. But yes, well-roundedness is the name of the game for sure. And you will last longer in the javelin if you have that base of understanding of your own body.
I agree. And I think that that's a big thing too is, I actually had my kids the other day try to simulate dunking a basketball into like learning how to hit the penultimate a little bit more powerful and actually like get your back leg across your body, or drive your right leg up across and just feel what that feels like to come in smooth with some speed and then hit something and then have your explosiveness bring yourself forward. And I just think that there's so many athletic attributes, like even throwing a baseball, where kids will come in, do their first lesson trying to throw javelin really far and trying to have all these goals, and then we see them throw a ball and it looks crazy. And I'm like, we need to start there first, be able to do simple athletic movements with a ball and just be an athlete and be a good mover before you have these big dreams and aspirations of being an elite level javelin thrower. And I just think that I see that over and over again, is how many elite level javelin throwers that I meet that were really, really good at other sports as well. So Kara, I know that last time we had you on, we talked a lot about the block and your ACL and your knee, and that was a big focus of the last episode we have. But for those people that haven't listened to that episode, give us a little background on your knee and then your ability to hit a block after your surgery and how that actually translated to you throwing your PR later in your career.
So the long version is that I tore my ACL the first time in 2012 throwing the javelin. I took thousands of throws and I only tore my ACL 2 times. So 2012, after that, like I didn't really change that much about technique. It was like, oh, that was a fluke. It probably won't happen again. I'm really strong. Like everything is fine. I'll do a great job at rehab. And then like my technique doesn't need to change. Started to kind of change my ideas with my former coach, Dana Lyon, on what the block actually was in like around 2018, 2019, like kind of just changing understanding of like what the right side is doing, how the right leg and the left leg work together at the block, and how I could just like be braver at the front of the throw. Tore my ACL again, kind of in the midst of that learning, and really leaned into the idea that the way that the hips work together, because now Ari and I talk about a double hip block more than a double leg block, to like rise up over the block leg, but using the entire like right side to kind of drive that motion. So it's a push pull rather than a stop push. And the right leg in the push pull is like turning and pushing forward. The left leg is like pulling back, but both the hips are rising up over the top of the block leg. And for me, after ACL number 2, I don't think I ever hit a straight block after ACL number 1, if I'm super honest with myself. But especially after ACL number 2, it just wasn't ever going to feel strong. It was scary, it hurt, and it wasn't a range of motion that I was confident in. So it didn't really matter how straight, like relatively straight is what always happened, but like it was never locked out. It was never hyperextended. It was never going to be that again, even in regular life, not just throwing the javelin. And I threw the best I've ever thrown, most consistent season of my life, like after that understanding kind of came fully into focus.
Talk a little bit about your experience learning about, I believe it was the penultimate into the block with Johannes Vetter, and how did he describe that to you that kind of cleared some things up in your mind?
Yeah, the initial part of it isn't revolutionary. It's the like aggressive left leg, like pull under the body, like really driving the upper body and hips like through in a way that's balanced and powerful and aggressive. So initial part of the impulse, like pretty regular teaching. The part for me that was revolutionary was his thoughts around patience on the right foot. And there's a lot of ways to say that, like patience implies slowing down or like pausing or whatever. It's not a pause. It's just like a placeholder on the ground while the left leg can get to the ground to then develop that double leg, double hip action. So the placeholder of the right foot on the ground after the impulse is basically just letting your hips stay either on the same plane that they are when you initiate that block or sink a little bit, so that then there's a rise up onto and over the block after that. So there's this idea of like soft step or fast right to left that for me always translated to pawing back at the ground and shoving my upper body forward because I made contact with the ground too early. The more aggressive impulse with the left leg, the permission to kind of have this placeholder in the right foot on the ground, not like reaching for it, but just like letting it meet the ground, allowing it to like support the hips as they continue to move along their horizontal path through that phase of the throw, and then turn the right foot over as the left leg is pulling backwards and being as straight as it can, is what really, really, really helped me. So that moment in the middle where you're just translating your energy through the landing part of the impulse before the throw actually develops is what really changed my thinking about how brave I could be at the block.
Do you view the block as a complete stop or an acceleration into the throw?
Acceleration.
That was a pop quiz.
It's a takeoff point. Like it's the impulse is the start of the actual throw.
I have a question for both of you guys, just high level throwers. And how are you able to know all of this, go like break down step by step, and still be able to throw in like a relaxed, controlled state? Just like being a controlled, relaxed, aggressive, but still think, like having that be aware. Is that something that's just practiced and then game time, it's game time? Because that's something I've struggled with, is that overthinking. The more I learn about certain biomechanical approaches or different feels in terms of swinging, throwing, I felt like I was just overanalyzed everything and I couldn't just relax to do the thing. So I want to hear from you two, just different mindset shifts of being able to be relaxed but still hit all those positions and still throw the thing pretty far.
Is this where I pull up our book club notes, Kara? So I mean that's a constant thing. So Kara and I, in our weird two-person book club that we've had for years now, together read The Inner Game of Tennis, and it talks a lot about that, like self one versus self two. Like self one is like my brain's on, I'm telling myself to do something, like I'm very much thinking through things, all that sort of stuff. And then self two is your body just kind of moving through those movements without any real internal, or however you want to put it, like input into what's going on with that. And the whole concept is you want to let self two take over. So let your body do whatever it needs to do. Um, Kind of as we've gone through our notes, I haven't read the stuff that you wrote last night, Garrett, but like the more that I've read through some of this stuff, and I'm very much an overthinker, like I very much, like you saw me or heard me talking about all of the like study, like, oh, this study said this and that study said that. And then based on physics, if you want to throw 65 meters as a woman, you need to be moving at least 7.5 meters per second down the runway. Like stuff like that is like how I approach it. But so much of that biomechanics stuff and so much of those sorts of things, I think, should be left to the coach or the person that's helping you. And they can kind of help you like make that work with how your body is feeling. And you have to let that self too do the things as it feels natural. If you're trying to fight or force yourself into a biomechanical position that's not working, there's probably something else up the chain that we're losing. And you're hyper focused on this rather than just letting your body move through those positions with fluidity. Your body is not going to want to do something that's going to hurt or doesn't feel right or doesn't feel appropriate. So like if you're really trying to like force something, there's probably a really good reason that your body's not letting you do that. So if you're overthinking some of that stuff with the biomechanics, you're probably falling into that trap of I got to force myself to do this, but I'm missing all the stuff before it that would allow me to do it easily. It's more of this biomechanical model is a check that I'm being as efficient as possible, not something that I'm trying to do in the moment.
Yeah, well, and I would actually add, like, I did not expect what the inner game of tennis actually is. Like, I've heard the title of the book so many times. It's kind of this classic, like, sports psychology book. And I found it, like, not that helpful in terms of objective, like, this is what you actually do and how you tap into self too. But the principles, like, absolutely, like, and to kind of directly answer your, like, how do you not overthink question, Brett? I think for me, and I think we're all like this in terms of noticing every detail, trying to work on every detail, and be absolutely sure that your arsenal of technique and weapons and drills is like bulletproof, right? So preparing beyond like what most people might prepare, and then relying on the fact that those tools are in your toolbox as you're coming down the runway, but having like very few things to focus on that you know are super important or super volatile. Like your most unreliable cues are the ones that need to be focused on the most. And those are what kind of like always took me out of self one, to be like, these two things matter. And ironically, Dan, for me, my leg was going to be so not straight if I didn't try to make it straight. So that was still a cue for me that like, in my mind, I need to know that like my left leg is brave enough to be straight. It's not going to be, but like I'm trying to make it do that. And two, redirecting the javelin on its longest path, like making sure that the line between my left toe and right first finger is like as absolutely long as possible at the very end of the throw. So like these very few focused things, and trusting that all of the other stuff you've taken care of already.
So you said that you didn't find it helpful more of because were you looking for the book to tell you just what to do and what not to do? And it was kind of more of an open-ended question?
Yeah, and I think I go into every like sports psychology book like that, like, oh, this one will have the answer. And the answer is that your mindset is an individual thing. Like there is no way to tell any one person like how they should exactly feel when they're in self two completely, right? Because like Ari and I are really different in how we like think about our bodies and can give feedback to ourselves and all that stuff, like we've had enough conversations about like what helps us each individually learn, that seeing that for me like just opens my eyes to the fact that like the way I think about mastery is like I am not a master of the javelin, I am a master of how I throw the javelin. And that mindset is like what can help me like be relaxed coming down the runway, but I can't even put into words a lot of times like what I might have been thinking at the back of the runway in any given like difficult session to get myself out of it, like practice session, or in the highest pressure situations. Like there are pieces of mindset that are just like indescribable to anybody else and going to be different for someone else too.
I think that's seen a lot in just every aspect of life, whether it be javelin, business, self-help, training. Like everyone's looking for the thing that's going to be the magic ticket or the magic key. It's like, how many self-help books do you need to just wake up early and actually go work out and just prioritize your health? Like, no, this next self-help book will, like, I need more Atomic Habits. Like, I need to read it. It's like, but I'm still not going to do the laundry or the dishes. So it's like it's things like that. And I think what is really interesting and what you're touching upon is having that internal mindset of knowing if you're overthinking or if you're not overthinking, and having that be something that is you're aware of. And for me, when I was playing baseball and going up into the plate, I always would take a step out, look at the left foul pole, take a deep breath, and then go in the box. And that was my reset, being like, there's always going to be a left foul pole, and there's always going to be a box, there's always going to be a plate. So like no matter what the game situation was, I had that mental reset of being like, all right, let's get back into the box. Like everything's in check. And baseball players are by nature extremely superstitious. So I'm curious if you guys have any of that mental reset. Like you feel like, oh man, I'm getting jittery, I'm overthinking. Like deep breath. What do you look at? What do you think? Is your coach telling you to pull you back a little bit, or is that more internal of what you're telling yourself through training or just through your life?
I'm gonna let you go first, Kara.
Okay. I was like, we've established a cadence. It's Ari's turn now. Mental reset. So in like my freshman year of high school, I'm at state and I was like doing terribly and I wasn't that proficient yet, but like I just was putting a lot of pressure on myself. And my high school coach had this "It's a Beautiful Day" drill that we would do like at the end of every practice. And it was literally just like lay on your back, look at the sky, and be grateful for where you are. So I, over like many years at that state meet, like I did that and I visualized like throwing through a brick wall at 150 feet. And I threw 133 feet and I had a 15-foot PR and I got second at state as a freshman. It was like super cool. So that super early, like breathe, reset, like just be aware of your surroundings, but be relaxed, thing was super helpful to learn like in that at 15 years old. I got into like close your eyes, like meditate kind of thing over many years in the middle of my career, and that did not work for me. Like it was like a close yourself off from your surroundings rather than like be present and relaxed. So in 2022, I started like doing the breathing thing with my eyes wide open. And that was exactly it. It wasn't necessarily like in competition, but before, if I was like feeling nervous, I would just be like, I am here and I am clearing my mind and taking deep breaths, like the end. And like sometimes I did mini versions of that in competition, but I'm also somebody that likes to be present and aware of what's going on. And so I'm not stressed by like someone across the track high jumping 230, right? Like I enjoy like witnessing that and letting that feed my performance too. And just kind of like that presence and awareness of surroundings without being attached to any of them is something that really helped me.
Yeah, this is something I'm still working on, in the sense that uh, I'm very much a person that I'm observing what's happening. I'm in a situation, and in my brain, there's like a level of emotion that should be associated with that event. And the people around me, or my coach, or whomever it may be, like if they're bringing 95% of that frustration, I'm just going to bring five. So I'm going to be super calm because I'm like, we don't need to overreact to this, right? But if they're underreacting to something that I'm like, this is stressful, we need to be doing this, I will bring too much. And that's true in like work and like things like that. For me, that's always been true. I'm like, this is how much is appropriate. If you're bringing too much, I'll meter mine down so that like we're somewhere in the middle, or like vice versa. Um, but in terms of like being in the moment, like I can usually do that. Like I remember very distinctly, it was 2019 Shanghai Diamond League. It was like my first Diamond League. I don't know why, I don't know how I got in it, but I was like, I hadn't thrown well the year before. It was like the first Diamond League. I guess no one wanted to go to China. But I'm in it, and I had two terrible throws, and I was like on my third throw, and I was like, I must throw something far because I did not fly however many hours across the Pacific Ocean to take three throws and go home and sit on the bench and watch everyone else do this. And I remember I'm standing on the back of the runway, and somebody like cleared a really high bar in the high jump, and I looked over at them, and you can see my face like on the camera, and I'm so pissed off. I'm like, shut up, like be quiet. This is my time. How dare you like how dare you high jump while I'm on the runway? And you can just see this like rage pass over my face. And then I'm like back looking at the sector, and I'm like completely like back in the zone again. So a lot of times I like see something happen, and then I'm able to like shift back really quickly, but like that frustration is still there. So I'm still figuring out like how do I meter some of that, because how can I bring the appropriate reaction to it? But in terms of being focused and in the moment and not being distracted, that's never an issue. Like I don't even know most of the time what's happening outside of the sector lines, other than maybe if someone's clearing a bar on the high jump. But that's always been true. Like I'm feeling my feet, I know where I am in space. It's just the emotional regulation based upon the environment.
Do you feel like it's harder to do that, say at a Diamond League meet or at the Olympics, because both of you guys have been to the Olympics, versus say like a backyard meet, like a smaller meet that is in, the United States?
I think the smaller meets are more distracting sometimes, just because there's a level of like I forget what the curve is called now, Dodson Yerkes curve or whatever. Like you need to have a certain level of arousal to be able to like actually perform. And so often I think those backyard meets, like there's just it's dead, or like you're trying to wake yourself up, and like it's harder, I think, for me to like bring myself up than to bring myself down in terms of like arousal and like what's happening in the moment. So I actually sometimes have a harder time with those smaller ones, just because I'm like, can we wake up? Like, I need someone to throw far and open this up so that like we're actually like moving and getting stuff going, versus everyone's watching you and it's intense, and like, okay, now I can just focus on me versus nothing's happening. But that's very personal too. So
Yeah, I think it really depends on the backyard meet, which is a silly answer, but like would we consider Jab Fest to be a small meet? Like I don't know, because it's important to the community, right? So there's really good energy around it. And in 2022, for me, like the specificity of attention is what's really hard to deal with, like mentally, and to bring myself down and be relaxed and be present in my own body. Because um, that meet was like right before World Championships in 2022, right after national championships. And like I showed up, I'm in this last season of my career, last full season. Excuse me. I showed up, it's my last season. And I'm expecting the world of myself. And then I was told by spectators who know the event and saw the American record get set there the year before that I should throw the American record that day. And so all of a sudden, there's this like very specific attention at this meet that I expected to be pretty chill, like a warm up for World, like this thing that should be just really fun and part of the community. And then immediately, like pressure ramps up in an extreme way. Like I still haven't PR'd for 12 years at this point, and all of a sudden there's like this extra mental load on what I'm doing there, when it could have been this really cool preparatory experience like for World Championships. Um, and I got third in the first competition with two women over 200 feet in the US, that I wasn't one of those two women, which was super cool also from like a javelin perspective. So Ari and Avion Allgood were like both over 200 consistent series, both of them. Like it was a really cool javelin event experience, and I crumbled under my own pressure and pressure from the crowd at this like quote unquote small meet. So it just really depends, like any given day, you as the athlete, how you perceive what that pressure is too, I think.
And to clarify, Kara's crumble under pressure was still like 60-40 or something, right? So you threw 60, it just wasn't 200 feet.
Dang it. Okay.
I always notice that the energy just seems to be higher at some of those bigger meets, and it almost seems like those bigger performances from other people will pull out better performances out of the athletes. And I mean, I just think back to like when Jordan was competing Division II, like any meet we went to in the Northeast where he's winning by 15, 20 meters, it's harder for him to throw above 80 meters at a meet like that than it is when you have Curtis Thompson and Mike Stein and Donovan and Capers like all pushing that barrier. And so that kind of brings it out of him a little bit more. And like back to the Division II national championship as well, is like you had, second place was like 79 meters, which would have been the Division II record the year before. So you see that competition kind of brings it out of you, and you're able to almost lock in a little bit better than when you have those small tune-up meets like that. Shifting over a little bit to some topics that I wanted to cover with you guys, because you guys have been in the javelin space a lot longer than I have. I would say that this is kind of like, even though I did it in college for 5 years, this is pretty much like going into my third season, like actually being involved in the way that I've been involved. And both of you guys threw at Division I colleges, which I did not. So with the whole NIL system now, and like also with the roster limits and so on and so forth, where do you guys see the future of collegiate javelin?
You're going to have to be really, really, really good, or come from a different event, because you can only throw outside. And a lot of heavy throws coaches don't want to deal with the javelin. And you're not typically going to have throws coaches that, like, very rarely are you going to have a throws coach that is really good at the javelin and then also kind of dabbles in the shot put and discus. Then add on the fact that we tend, as javelin throwers, not myself, but others, tend to be very injury prone. So then we're missing seasons. We can't throw in certain meets. The javelin is kind of like the pole vault in that it's very rare that someone is just like, and I know this sounds crazy because Mondo and Katie have been so dominant in the pole vault, but like you could go in and you could no height, or you could like have a really bad day. And it just seems more fluid with who's successful in what competition because of maybe the way that they throw or the way that they jump or things like that. So you don't often have someone who comes in and is going to be like, hey, I know that I can throw 80 meters every single time, or I can throw 60 meters every single time. There's just these wild fluctuations. And so I think it's going to be really tough, because if I'm a head track coach at a D1 university and I only have so many roster spots, why would I bring in a javelin thrower? Honest question. Like, from a business standpoint, why would I bring in a javelin thrower? Like, what's the benefit of it? They only throw outside, they're hurt a lot, and I need someone very specific to know how to coach the javelin. What's the benefit to me as a college coach to bring in a javelin thrower? And unfortunately, that's the reality of it. And I don't have a good answer for that right now. But I think it's one of those things where it's going to be tough unless you have someone who's a multi, who then transitions into it, or someone from a different sport or different event who's like, hey, I'm already on scholarship with baseball, but I'll come throw the javelin for you guys, and like something like that.
I think like when I was growing up and throwing in high school, right, I was told when I got decently good that like, you are unique, you are special.
Just like everyone else, right?
Like everyone else. And like this special skill that is like not something that other throwers have, like is marketable at the college level. Like you will be valuable on a team because this isn't something that everybody does. Like growing up in Washington, et cetera, having that leg up in recruiting wasn't a negative because there was unlimited roster spots and probably some scholarship money, even if it wasn't all of it. And I didn't have a full ride when I went to school, but it's very similar to like I know I look right in the face like how lucky I am to just have been born when I was born and start throwing the javelin earlier because there were scholarships available and there were sponsorships available because your jersey was still your billboard when I graduated from college. Like I didn't get a scholarship or a sponsorship because I was a good social media content creator. I got a scholarship because I was sponsorship because I was really good at javelin leaving college and could put a logo on my jersey around the world at meets that I knew I was going to get into. And those were the only opportunities for that logo to be seen. Now it's totally different. So just like the both worlds like changing drastically is really hard to see as just like the old geezer of this group, but also as someone who knows how good so many more people can be at the javelin in the United States. And I think when you ask like what's the future of javelin in college, it's Division 2, Division 3. Like it's junior colleges. Like it's a system of like what is this very unique skill that can be supplemented and optimized with so much more auxiliary training than people want to believe. Like I just feel so strongly about sprinting, jumping, um, full range of motion, like special strength stuff being the true key to throwing the javelin really far. And you don't need to be in a collegiate system to actually tap into those skills. You just need a little bit more knowledge and community around it, which is what you guys are doing.
Something that I was just about to ask you that you kind of touched up on is the importance of having a social media brand for these athletes. Because, yeah, it's why would I choose a javelin thrower to come in? They're always hurt. They're always this. They're always that. Like you're kind of taking a risk from a business standpoint as a college sector, like bringing a javelin person on. But what if they have 3 million followers and they bring everyone over to look at your whole track and field industry as a whole? Like, yes, you still need to be good at the event. I'm not saying that, but could how we're moving a little bit have the social media impact affect some of these coaches' decisions? Do you think they look at that their social media presence as almost like their resume?
That sounds like a headache personally as a coach, but I like they're going to be focused on those 3 million followers. I think is Niraj the only one that has that many? He's got to be
Yeah,
the
he
only
is.
one with that many. Um, I mean, I genuinely don't know the landscape. I volunteer coached for a little bit from like 2014 to 2016. And it was like kind of starting a little bit then, but not by any means like what it is now. But um, I, I don't know. I feel like we're on the edge of a social media bubble where everyone's just so sick of it, and 60% of it's AI anyways. So this person has 3 million followers, but they're not even actually a javelin thrower. It's just all AI created content, right? Like I don't know. I have a hard time believing that a college coach would want to bring that in just for views when that's a roster spot that they could give to a sprinter who probably has the same, if not more. I feel like I'm being really negative. I love the
No,
javelin.
no, I,
It's
I
like this
agree.
realistic landscape.
I agree with you too, especially if you're Ariana, just because like if you're talking about a 17-year-old that has a social media following, like I look back at the stuff I posted when I was 23, 24, and I cringe at it because I had 1 year of coaching experience at that point versus now, having 4 times that much. And so if you're, you want, obviously it's not just about the followers, and this is something I try to pride myself on as well. It's not just about the followers, but it's on like the quality of the information that you're portraying and like being a good person and trying to like help people out for the most part, at least like in my role as being like a social media coach. So I just look at that like from a coach's perspective. If I have a kid that has all these followers that's like spewing brain rot, just clout chasing, then it's completely different than having a mature audience and trying to actually portray like a good message. This is all like a hypothetical situation too. So I'm just already getting mad at this like 17-year-old that like this made up 17-year-old that has all these followers.
This made up this AI javelin thrower that I hate. Well, and I would never want to put words in someone's mouth, but I would pretty strongly tell you that a head coach like Pat Henry at Texas A&M is going to look at an athlete like that as a liability, not an asset.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they have that many people and they've spent all of their time on social media enough to build a following like that, are they gonna spend more time on that than studying? Are they gonna fail and be eligible? Are they gonna say something nonsensical and it's gonna blow up and come back on my program that I've spent a lot of time building the reputation of? Like I can get a reputation gone like that with just like a little bit of incorrect information or saying something about something that's not even related to like track and field, right? Like I think a lot of people, especially because of the way that it's blown up, you're going to have those coaches that are like, okay, cool, we can do this. But I think a lot of them that's a liability, not an asset. Now I have to manage this beast that this athlete has created and brought in.
I think in this phase of my life, like transitioning out of sport, being a javelin thrower for the vast majority of my life, like, and then trying to find something new, I've thought a lot, especially this week, about like the phenomenon of social media, like being somebody who grew up without it, without a cell phone.
Jav.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Yes, I should change it. And it is better than Kara threw Jav. I like that. But again, is it Kara knows her own Jav? Like that's the thing.
Kara knows her Jav, like just one in particular.
Yes, a Jav. So in the spirit of transition, like out of sport, and like I truly at this moment in my life like believe that athletes die twice. Like that quote is absolutely true. Like it's tough. And growing up without social media, having it like be a part of most of my athletic career and knowing that it was quote unquote important. It is important. Like it is in this day and age, like something that if you want money from entities that are supporting your career, you do have to consider. You can do it without it, but if you want like sponsorship, you are required to make content. You're required to be a person like that is visible to audiences. And getting into that habit, I believe for me has been toxic to creating other habits. Like there's just at this moment in my life, like I would rather not be on social media to make space like for my own pursuit of other passions, if that makes sense. Like I created this world that is javelin for the most part, but visible and something that you have to like curate and pay attention to if you want to be like a part of this world that you've always been a part of. I don't really want to be a part of that world, and it's distracting to like the genuine way that I can go about my life in real life. And I think that's exactly like what we're all getting at is like if you pay attention to the 300 million followers, 3 million.
300 million.
That was a random number I threw out, so you guys can say whatever number you want. It's just a lot of followers is what I was getting at.
I think, is that Jennifer Aniston? I think she's the only one that might be close to that.
I think Nadim has quite a bit now after the Olympics last year.
That makes sense. We're gonna
like,
research.
Yes, be part of your own real life, because like I don't believe that many people have the capacity to maintain like a digital community, a physical in real life community, their studies, and like this very high level athletic pursuit. Like it takes a lot of like presence and intention and concentration on your own like real life to make your dreams come true if they're like a physical, tangible thing.
Obviously, we just talked about the future of collegiate United States javelin. Where does U.S. javelin need to improve across the board at the professional level and beyond to get more competitive? Like we had Curtis this year, came in third at Worlds, huge breakthrough for us. So what do we need to do to get more of that? Is it more online coaching resources? Is it more in-person camps? Is it more community events, more coaching mentorship? what is it in your mind?
I have a very specific answer that's going to not fit in the box that you've tried to draw for me,
Okay, that's fine.
which is that every javelin thrower needs to figure out how to run. We don't run. We're all very slow. We're the slowest people on the runway, and it's why the javelin doesn't go anywhere. Go ask Curtis what he did different between 2022, 2023, and this past season. He learned how to run. He's bringing consistent speed down the runway. He's fast, and because that's consistent, he can work on the end of the stuff down here, right? Like then he's able to dial this in. We spend too much time, all of us, being hyper focused on the throw. Like we do all these standing throws. We'll do like a 2-step crossover. We'll do all this sort of stuff. But if I'm not bringing speed, the javelin's not going to go far. Like that number that I threw out earlier, like that 7.5 meters per second, I didn't just totally pull that out of my rear end. Like that's based on physics and based on the weight of an implement and how far and like all that sort of stuff. Like 40 to 50% of your throw is based on the runway speed. Now, can you turn it and translate it into an appropriate hip separation and shoulder posture and angle of attack and all that sort of stuff? Sure, that's that other half. But no one we are always the slowest people on the runway, except for the people at the very elite level at those championships. And the reason that they're throwing well at those championships is because they're running down the runway. So we have all these people that stumble, bumble, trip down the runway, and then they stop on that block and then just try to chunk the crap out of it. And that's why their standing throw and their full approach throw are within 5 to 10 meters of each other.
Okay, so would you argue that goes back to more high-level coaching resources available or coaching mentorship? And like why is it that Americans are obsessed with the power position?
Here's my soapbox. You've opened up the can of worms. I do not think that javelin throwers should be trained by heavy throws coaches.
Okay, so you're saying discus and shot put and...
Correct. It's an approach event. Javelin throwers should spend a lot of time with the jumps group and or pole vaulters, and then spend their power and strength development time with the throwers, but they should not spend all of their time with the throwers. They have to learn how to run and be mobile and be bouncy and all those sorts of things that we typically associate with jumpers, and things like that. Like that's where I think we get messed up, is that we train them like heavy throwers, like they're in the weight room and they get all tight. I'm not saying they can't be jacked, but they have to be jacked and mobile, right? So I think that's where we get thrown off, is that, yeah, I can stand here and throw it really far, but if I can't run into it, like go and watch 2015 World Championships in Beijing. Go find Johannes Vetter in that video. He can barely move down the runway. His crossovers are horrendous. Like he's moving really slowly. His throw at the end is almost exactly the same, but he's like just not moving. And then juxtaposition that with a couple of years later where he's learned to like actually bring in speed and attack, and the difference is night and day. So not the answer you were probably looking for, but that's where I think we've messed up as an event as a whole, is that we've gotten hyper focused on the end of the throw, developing this strength and power, but it's not a static event. I'm not throwing out of a circle. If it was the standing throw championships, we'd probably be doing just fine.
Yeah, and just to say too, like if there's anything about me, I do not want to push an agenda on anybody with this podcast, and I want to have the highest level people on the podcast. That's why Curtis' episode actually went out today. I'm having you guys on, both, Olympians. I want to try to have as many people on as possible to kind of shed some light on different perspectives, because if there's anything that I've learned in my time, my long 2 years during doing javelin, it's that if all I did was stay in Connecticut and have my own thought process and train my high school and college athletes in Connecticut, then I wouldn't know anything about what I know now, and I would have the same opinions I did when I was 23. And that's not how I grow, and that's not how the javelin community grows. So I wasn't looking for a specific answer. I wanted to that's kind of like, I guess, where my mind goes is like, all right, what could I do as a coach to like improve the community, improve the coaching resources? But I mean, that's why having high level athletes on the show is important, because you need the athlete side of it as well, specifically the post collegiate athlete side of it, where a lot of what we talked about on Curtis's episode was the challenges of training after college, and how do you get better at 29 years old versus being at 22 when you have all of the resources handed to you essentially. So that's where my heart is with all of this. And Kara, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, three things. Agree completely with Ari. And I love that we didn't even talk about it. I was like, I know my answer. And here we are. Because same, like Curtis Thompson in 2022, he threw 87 meters at Jav Fest, right? And he like threw 87 meters multiple times this year. Absolutely incredible. But after Jav Fest in 22, we were on the same flight to Worlds. And I was like, oh my gosh, tell me exactly what the difference was. Like, I am so curious, like how you feel about that performance. And he said that in 2022, like my run is better. I'm running better. I'm carrying speed, like perfect. And Brett, earlier when we were talking about like, how do you quiet your mind, like focus on what's important, sprinting and being super comfortable running and being efficient with your feet on the ground is how you relax through the approach. So checking that box, like being a good sprinter, being a good runner, being posturally efficient in your crossovers, like translating what's happening in your feet to like what your upper body is going to do later, and understanding how to use your legs after you build that speed is like where Americans miss the mark for sure. So running. Two, Dan, like to your point of visiting other coaches and to Ari's point of heavy throws coaches, I think there's two issues. Heavy throws coaches don't think that they understand the javelin. And that drives me crazy because they understand hip shoulder separation. They understand accelerating hips up like ahead of shoulders and the rotational component of building stretch reflex through your body. The javelin is so much more rotational than people want to believe that it is. Mm-hmm. It's a throw, it's a stretch reflex. Like it is the same as the discus and the shot put. Hammer is the weird one. And there is still a component of the hips and shoulders separating. But like for heavy throws coaches, like one of my missions is to teach them that they actually know what's happening in the javelin.
Kara knows Jav.
Kara knows Jav. Is so, and like it's why I care about coaching coaches. Like that technical component is already in their wheelhouse. Like they already know what generating force through the body, like from the ground to the hand is. It's just in a slightly different plane at the end of the throw. And there's a run before it, but like that end result is there. And Dan, to your point of like visiting other coaches, like expanding your knowledge, that selflessness from a coaching staff, like I think it already exists. It's just not something that a heavy throws coach understands that they can tap into. Like treating a javelin thrower kind of like a multi to send them over to the long jump coach, the triple jump coach, the pole vault coach, to learn is something that could be super, super beneficial. And I just happened to have a pole vault coach as my javelin coach in college, which is like where I started out. But like I didn't learn to truly sprint. Like he had so many athletes and so little time that like that wasn't a real focus. It was like we ran a lot, but we didn't run efficiently. And I didn't learn how to do that until post-collegiate. But then I had the breakout season of breakout seasons in 2010, like the first year that I learned to push in the first 7 steps of a sprint and be like generating force quickly and understanding like how it moves through a body. Third, how do we get better at the javelin in the US? Put your phone down. You can watch a video, see something that like does inspire you, but then go be quiet by yourself and feel what positions feel like and learn what like actually feels good. Tap into self too and be like your own advocate in your own body and learning how you actually feel in positions. Because I think social media and all of these videos that you want to consume and online coaching is the new self-help book. Like you're spending your time thinking that you're learning, but you're not actually learning about yourself and how you can get better.
We had one in our episode with Curtis, and then we had a baseball pitcher coach yesterday on the show, Jake Olliger. Him and Curtis both talked about how they hate looking at slow-mo videos or like still frame shots, and how it's so important to watch videos at full speed because you could see the timing of things and how the energy actually gets through the throw, versus a lot of times people will take a screenshot and say, oh, if I could just hit this power position half a frame earlier with my back hip internal rotation, and my arm is so far back into layback that it's, getting into external rotation at the perfect time. But like, if I just get the hip through sooner, and they go on and on about, oh, they're going to throw 5 meters further if they just get this one position half a frame earlier. But you need to see how you get into the position and how you transfer the energy through the throw. And that, I think, is just so valuable for kids to hear and understand. And I think it's so true too about, just having the self-help book mentality of, yes, learning is important, and that's what I try to be a resource for and as much as possible. But you need to take the resources and actually go do them. You can't just sit down and read it or watch it or listen to it and expect it to just translate automatically.
And I'd say like the self-reflection part too, like if you finish practice and immediately are going to consume more of what other people have done, it's like mental recovery. Like you need this time to marinate on like what actually happened. And I think a place that Ari throws now and that I threw in the last couple of years of my career is in an hour away from where we live. So that drive time for me was super important, like on the way home, to be like, I'm not even sometimes listening to music. I'm just like thinking about what happened and kind of going over like what the true lessons were from that day to have this like decompression time. I'm also driving and being safe, but like, what is that moment of like journaling, sitting for a little bit of extra time on the runway and talking to your coach and like just really absorbing what happened that day without needing to immediately go and distract yourself from your own life.
Or post it to your 3 million followers,
It came back to the 3 million. Something that
Raj has 9 million. I just looked at it.
9 million?
Yeah. He's the most followed track and field athlete for sure. And I would argue like he's so visible, but like we know him a little bit. He's very self-reflective and he loves the sport and he's like super a student of the sport. Like he really enjoys like talking to people about their technique and being like very present in what other people are doing while trusting his own stuff. So like he's the most followed track and field athlete in the whole world, and yet like does not share that much about like what he's going through in a digital way.
I was just curious when I said that question, Duke, by the way. It's just we had this female athlete who's a really good soccer player, like 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in Connecticut. She plays overseas in the Philippines, and her agent was telling her she needs to start posting more because she was committed to South Carolina. She's starting as a freshman. She's a really, really fantastic soccer player. But that was part of that world of being like, you need a social presence and a social identity to like boost yourself up even more. So I was just curious if that's like javelin at all too.
Who's pushing that agenda and what's the point, right? The agent knows that, hey, you need more followers so you can make more money so I can make more money. So sometimes the thought is, who's that pressure actually coming from? Like, I've always had a job. Like all of my support of myself has been from working. And because I didn't really throw in college, I only know post-collegiate, like kind of working around these schedules or being in grad school or doing those sorts of things. So I guess my question always comes back to who's telling you that you need to do this and what is their motivation for doing that?
Yeah, and I think too, going back to what Kara was talking about of like putting down your phone, now that Jacked Javelin is my full-time job, I talked about this as well on the Curtis Thompson episode, but I was talking about how when I first started this, a big part of it was that I could get some time back to focus more on my own training post-collegiately and put more into Jordan as well. And it very quickly compounded to the point where I realized that now whenever I did have downtime or I had more time to train, Jacked Javelin, the community aspect and the brand aspect and the following aspect and just helping more people aspect would always grow the more that I put into it. So then when I had free time, it ended up being more time back into Jacked Javelin and just the podcast and the YouTube and the app that I made and the plyo balls and like all this stuff that I didn't even foresee happening. But it became that where it was like I started this to try to throw post collegiately. But then I realized that the more I put into it, the more I got out of it. And then it just became impossible for me to turn it off. And so now it's just consumed my life to the point where, I mean, I love it. And I'm able to, in my opinion, help a lot more people that way. And I get more reps coaching and more time talking about the sport and researching the sport and stuff like that. But from an athlete perspective, I feel like that would definitely hinder me because you never get a break from it. You're always doing something to talk about it, learn about it, coach it, look at things differently. And it's just a lot.
Yeah. And I this is a Kara nose job point, Dan. The soccer player, like, there's absolutely a way to genuinely share. Oh, my gimbal just died. Genuinely share about there is absolutely a way to like genuinely share about what your career is. Like look at like Tara and Hunter Woodall. Like honestly, Ari and I were on the Tokyo team with Tara when she like made the final, but wasn't yet the Tara Davis Woodall that we know today, right? And she is absolutely who she is. Like she portrays herself like incredibly. That is like the human that Tara is. And I love that. Like, it's so fun to see. So like, yes, share about your life, but I would caution anybody that's going to do that like, now Kara throws jav becoming Kara knows jav. I don't know what to post on social media. I'm not a javelin thrower. Like there's this like identity crisis that's wrapped up in the brand that you build that you will face inevitably someday. And Dan, like absolutely editing videos, like doing your own social media content creation, like videoing everything so that you can edit those videos takes you out of the presence of what you're doing. And there's absolutely a balance that you can strike. So I don't want to say don't do it, because for me, it's been extremely cathartic in certain times to share about the genuine emotions that I'm going through. Like that's always been kind of my strategy. I did not have social media the first time. I mean, I had a Facebook, I had a Twitter back in the day that I tore my ACL. But having like the whole journey documented the second time around on Instagram is something that is really meaningful to me. And I get a lot of messages from kids who are going through the same thing. It breaks my heart every single time, but like there's not a whole lot of people that can help them through that. And I'm very grateful to be able to do so. And if I let it, it will continue to be my whole life, right? And I think like when you're thinking about online coaching, you probably feel the burden of it because you're the most visible. Like there are a few other people, but the way to actually grow an online coaching situation for all of America to get better is to have more online coaches to share that burden, because different people will have different perspective for different athletes that are looking for that help. And you're not the best fit for every single person, but you're the only fit right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's definitely a pivot that I'm making towards next year, is only working with people one-on-one, like for a longer term commitment. I just kind of got to the point where I need to be able to actually build a relationship with more people to see if it's the right fit. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciated our conversation. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was really cool to hear your side of things, and hopefully social media doesn't take over the world and AI robots and stuff, but everyone stays true to themselves and throws the javelin far with what they know and how they feel. Thanks for tuning in.
And if you enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star rating and review and share the show, because the only way that this show grows is if you like it, share it, and tell your friends and family about it.
New episode every Monday.